I never believed in fairy tales until I found a love that defied all odds. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment it hit me like a tidal wave crashing against the shore, drowning all my hopes. I stood there, heart pounding, breath caught in my throat, as my entire world crumbled around me. The air was thick with secrets and betrayal. Shadows danced in the corners of my mind, whispering doubts that screamed louder than my heart beats. It was a dull ache at first, a knot in my stomach, but then it grew fierce and painful, invading every moment. I could see the wreckage of what used to be a stage turn to ruins, the laughter now echoes of the past. He was my everything. Lucas, my first love, my captivating dream. We were inseparable. Late-night talks beneath the stars, soft kisses, laughter that lit up the darkness. He understood me, or so I thought. The way he looked at me made everything feel possible. But how quickly things changed. The night of the party, the secrets slipped through the cracks. Missed glances and knowing smirks shattered my trust like fragile glass. It still hurts to think about it. Emily, my best friend, tried to talk me through it, her words vague yet piercing. Maybe it's not what you think, she said, her eyes filled with worry. But she didn't know. I could see the truth in the depths of Lucas's gaze, mingling with someone else's joy. Betrayal had a weight I could almost touch. My hands shook. I was left stranded between disbelief and despair. Every corner of my heart was a battlefield, each memory a grenade. His smile, the way he used to brush my hair back, the scent of his cologne that lingered on my shirt. And yet, alongside the bitterness, there was a flicker of hope buried deep, something whispering that maybe, just maybe, love could repair this mess. But at what cost? Just when I thought I could breathe again, everything shifted. A message appeared on my phone, jolting me from my thoughts. Meet me at the old library. There's something you need to know. My heart raced, caught between fear and curiosity. What could possibly be worth knowing? Who could ever unravel this tangled web of lies? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain drizzled softly against the window as I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my phone. The chilling glow of the screen sent a shiver through me. It felt like a beacon and a trap at the same time. I couldn't ignore the pulse of curiosity, but every part of me screamed to stay away from that old library. What more could there be to uncover? Surely, the truth had already seeped through its cracks, but I needed to know if there was any chance of repair or forgiveness. With a heavy heart, I pushed my chair back and stood up. The thud of my feet on the wooden floor echoed in the empty room, bringing with it a wave of nostalgia tinted with the pain of loneliness. I grabbed my worn-out coat, a threadbare piece that had been with me through every heartache, and slipped it on like armor. As I stepped outside, the world felt muted, the colors washed away by the relentless drizzle that turned everything into a blend of gray. The old library loomed before me, a relic from another time, its facade cracked and weather-beaten, but still standing tall. The door creaked ominously as I entered, filling me with an odd mix of anxiety and anticipation. I had spent countless afternoons here with Lucas, buried in the pages of our favorite books, trading whispers and smiles. Now, the air inside felt charged with unspoken words, memories haunting the dusty aisles. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely breaking through the silence. I felt strangely small under the high ceilings, as if all the hurt and confusion had encapsulated me in a glass case, separate from the reality around me. After a moment, I spotted a figure in the far corner, and recognition crashed into me like a tidal wave. Emily. Her back was to me, shoulders hunched as she paged through an old novel, seemingly lost in its lines. I took a hesitant step closer, my heart thudding. I knew there was something more between us than friendship now. The burden of Lucas' betrayal loomed over us like an uninvited guest. "Emily?" I whispered. She turned around, and her eyes widened with surprise, then softened with concern. "Hey." I didn't think you would come. Soften. That was her voice, always gently anchoring me back to earth. I had to know what you found out, I admitted, weaving through the rows of books, my heartbeat rising in my throat. Is it about Lucas? Her gaze fell to the floor, but there was a spark in her eyes, one that gave off warmth amidst the cold doubt. It's complicated, she answered slowly, visibly weighing her words. But I think you deserve to know. What I found, it's about more than just him. The revelation hung in the air like static, trembling with the promise of unseen truths. She gestured for me to sit, and I sank into a nearby chair, the old wood creaking beneath me as I clutched my notebook, a lifeline amidst the chaos in my mind. As she started to speak, the words came cautiously at first, laced with hesitation. It's not just about him cheating, or that night at the party. There are things that were said, things that happened before. I leaned in, absorbing every syllable as though they were life rafts being tossed into a stormy sea. The layers peeled away like an onion, each revelation sharper than the last. Lucas' heart wasn't solely entwined with betrayal. There were weights and burdens he had carried in silence. The nameless person he shared that intimate rapport with was someone from his past, someone who had come back unexpectedly, rocking his world and intertwining fate's threads. The tremor ran through me, the implications gnawing at my insides. So, he wasn't just being unfaithful? I asked, though the bitterness lingered like a bad taste in my mouth. It's more complicated than that. Emily nodded, concern etched into her features. I think he was trying to figure it all out without hurting you. But instead, he may have hurt you worse. The compassion in her voice scratched against my heart, stirring the dulled edges of my pain. But why didn't he come to me? Why keep it a secret? The question shook loose a storm of emotions within me, and I clenched my fist, fighting the urge to cry. I don't know, but I think it's because he cares about you deeply. Sometimes fear wraps around our hearts and clouds our judgment. He didn't want to lose you in the process. Each word felt like a cruel balm to my wounds. And as I sat there grappling with the overwhelming mix of betrayal and hope, another message popped up on my phone, the screen lighting up with Lucas's name. I froze, paralyzed, heart racing as disbelief mingled with fear. What could he possibly want now? Emily must have sensed my tension. Her hand reached out, covering mine. You don't have to answer it. You can walk away from this if you want. I could feel the warmth of her empathy illuminating the shadows around us, yet the weight of my choice felt oppressive. As I stared at the screen, the tension snapped, and I glanced towards the door. I didn't know which path would lead to healing or heartbreak. For every hope of rekindling the love I had lost, a warning bell tolled loudly in my heart, urging me to guard its remnants. With bated breath, I opened the message, my heart racing against the shuffle of certainty and doubt, ready to dive into the unknown. The words blurred in front of my eyes, and a flood of emotions surged within me, as the impending truth lurked, threatening to turn everything I knew upside down. I couldn't look away. And as I read the message, the ground beneath my feet felt like it was made of quicksand. Beneath me a darkness stirred, demanding to be acknowledged. In that moment, clarity and madness entwined. The choices ahead glimmered ominously, and before I could come to terms with my next step, the confession echoed clearly. You deserve to know the truth about everything about us. I stood frozen, the screen's glow blinding as the implications of Lucas's words seeped into my mind. About us. The weight of that phrase hung heavily, each letter sinking deeper into the fabric of my thoughts. My heart thundered in my chest, oscillating between longing and fear, hope and despair. Emily's hand, still resting on mine, squeezed gently, providing a tether amidst the maelstrom. You don't have to respond, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I could feel the warmth of her understanding, but it only magnified the agony of my uncertainty. The air felt thick and suffocating, pressing down on me as the past and present threatened to collide. I have to. I finally breathed, my voice trembling with resolve. I looked back at the message, heart racing as I tried to summon the courage to reply. I had to know what he meant. It was as if the fragmented pieces of my life were poised on a precipice, waiting for the faintest push to tumble down into chaos or to converge into something whole again. But as I opened my mouth to type, another wave of doubt washed over me, drowning the small flicker of courage that had ignited. Could I trust him again? Did the truth he promised come with barbs? Or was it the salve I so desperately needed? Just as uncertainty clawed at me, I noticed Emily's face, her brows knit in concern, yet brimming with an empathy that felt as familiar as the height of my own sorrow. What if he only wants to pull me back into his web of lies? I said, my voice cracking as I spoke the words. Emily's fingers tightened around mine, grounding me like roots holding steadfast against a storm. Then you'll face it together, she said with a quiet strength. But you must choose how you want to face this. Alone, or with him, or even with me. The offer trembled on the edge of that last word, an unspoken bond weaving through our shared pain and vulnerabilities. Her honesty ignited something within me, a flicker of bravery amid the tumult that I looked away, the weight of my past hanging around my shoulders like a shroud. Memories of laughter, whispered dreams, and affection flitted through my mind, tangled with those jagged moments of betrayal. The darkness behind Lucas and the connection we once had felt intoxicatingly complex, promising but laced with danger. The door of the library creaked open, and I turned to see a stranger enter, umbrella dripping with rainwater, the scent of wet earth trailing behind. They navigated the aisles, oblivious to the emotional whirlwind where I sat anchored in place. My gaze shifted back to the phone, the glow illuminating my world, urging me to reclaim the narrative of my life. Do you think there's a way to rebuild trust? I posed the question softly to Emily, uncertainty lining my voice. She considered this before answering, her brow furrowed in thought. Trust can take time. It sounds like Lucas is reaching out, trying to bridge the gap, but it's up to you to decide if you want to cross it. The sincerity in her eyes made my heart flutter. There was something magnetic about her unwavering support despite the storm raging within me. I don't know if I can face him, I murmured, fear racing through my veins. What if I end up hurting myself even more? I thought I could handle it, but everything feels so overwhelming. Emily shifted closer, her presence warm and inviting. You're not alone anymore. Whatever path you choose, it'll be right here. The declaration wrapped around me like a comforting embrace, weaving its way into the frayed edges of my heart. I took a deep breath, betraying the tears that stung at the corners of my eyes, and refocused my attention on Lucas's message. The moment had condensed, each second pulling taut as if the world held its breath alongside me. The message felt like a lifebuoy tossed into the turbulent sea of my emotions. It promised clarity, yet the deluge of questions spiraled uncontrollably. What truth could mend what had been torn asunder? I licked my dry lips, the taste of anxiety edging on bitter. Okay, just breathe. I whispered to myself more than to Emily. The words flowed into the silence as I began typing back, fingers trembling unsurely over the keys. Just then, the stranger who had entered the library turned toward us, a smile spreading across their face, an unexpected kindness that warmed the space. I couldn't help but overhear, they said sincerely. This place often holds more answers than we believe. Sometimes all it takes is the right question. It was as if the universe had shifted slightly, allowing a faint glimmer of hope to break through the clouds of gloom. They offered a reassuring nod, their presence an anchor in our shared turmoil. Sometimes, all you need is to take the leap. You have control over your story. With a nod of acknowledgement, I felt my resolve strengthen, bolstered by the truth simmering beneath the surface of my confusion. I finished typing. What do you mean by everything? Tell me, please. As the message sent, a flutter of anxiety filled the pit of my stomach, but also a spark of hope. The click of the send button reverberated, echoing around the dusty library like the first chime of a clock striking midnight. An answer was coming. I could feel it, with my heart torn between anticipation and dread. But then, chilling silence enveloped me, stretching out past the moment, and as I waited, an unexpected ping from my phone made my heart seize. I had a reply, but just as I read the first line, the library doors burst open again, and this time it was Lucas himself, soaking wet and breathless, his eyes searching, will the storm of emotions swirling within him. Please, I need to talk to you, he pleaded, shattering the fragile environment we had cultivated. I couldn't look away, couldn't breathe, caught between the echoes of the past and the beckoning of the present, standing on the brink of something I couldn't yet fathom. The air around us seemed to thicken, a palpable tension electrifying the space as Lucas stepped into the dim light of the library. His presence ignited dormant memories, and the rapid rise and fall of my heartbeat echoed the internal chaos he embodied. Water dripped from his hair, catching the flickering light like fallen stars, as his desperate gaze fixed on me, anchor in a storm both familiar and frightening. "Please, I need to talk to you," he repeated, voice strained as though he'd sprinted across the universe to reach me. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications, while behind him, the door creaked closed, sealing our separate worlds into one. I glanced at Emily, whose expression mirrored my confusion and apprehension. Her grip on my hand tightened, an unyielding source of strength and warmth amidst the chaos. "You don't have to do this if you're not ready," she urged softly, uncertainty shadowing her kind eyes. Her unwavering support both comforted me and deepened the chasm of my internal conflict. "What do you want, Lucas?" I finally managed to ask, my voice steadier than I felt. Each word weighed with a mixture of longing and caution, both yearning for connection and bracing against the potential hurt. He took a tentative step forward, uncertainty skirting the edges of his certainty. "Tuvi changed. I need you to understand what happened and why." The tremor in his voice struck a deep chord within me, an echo of the boy whose laughter once filled my world, the boy who had, in so many ways, broken it. "Changed how?" I questioned, arms crossed defensively as shards of doubt sliced through the fragile thread of hope he offered. "Please, just let me explain," he implored, taking a seat at a nearby table, the weight of my hesitation pulling at us like a thin thread ready to snap. "I never stopped thinking about you. I know I hurt you." "Stop," I interrupted, a surge of emotion building in my chest. "You can't just walk in here and pretend as if time means nothing. You shattered everything we had." He flinched, pain flashing across his face, yet it was quickly replaced with a resolve that surprised me. "I know, and I'm sorry. But those moments of darkness swallowed me whole. It was never supposed to hurt you. I didn't know how to get out," he confessed, his voice shaking with vulnerability. As he spoke, I could see the shadows of regret flickering in his eyes, a haunting reflection of the man cared for and then pushed away. Somehow, in the swirl of my emotions, I could hear Emily's steady breath reminding me of the possibility of second chances, of healing, even as rage and sorrow brewed in the pit of my stomach. "What do you think is going to happen between us now?" I questioned, the bitterness lacing my voice as I craved answers to questions I was terrified to ask. Would we tread the murky waters of rekindled affection together, only to drown in the tide of memories once more? "I want to reclaim what we had," he said, the fervor in his tone igniting a painful flutter in my chest. "They'll do anything if you just give me a chance to show me what? How to trust you again." I barked, frustration bubbling to the surface. "You think it's that easy?" That I can just a sudden, desperate crash interrupted my tirade. The sound came from the windows where rain lashed against the glass, the fierce storm outside replicating the tempest within me. I turned just in time to see a flash of movement, a figure darting past the library, their shadow melding and melting into the dark, chaotic outside world. "What was that?" Emily exclaimed, her voice rising as she stood, straining to see through the rain-soaked glass. The momentary distraction pulled us from the electric tension rising between Lucas and myself. "Maybe someone's just passing by," Lucas shrugged, but there was an edge to his tone that made me question if he too felt the unease that hung in the air. That I turned slowly, my curiosity dissipating some of the lingering tension as I wandered toward the window, heart racing. The glow of headlights danced on the slick pavement, illuminating the figures that moved outside, barely noticeable through the sheets of rain. It felt like the world around us had been painted in wild strokes of uncertainty, both thrilling and fearful. And then, a familiar figure caught my eye just beyond the library's entrance. A flash of auburn hair strikingly unique in the swirling gray, my heart plummeted deeper as dread sunk its claws into my chest. It was Sarah, Lucas' sister, the one person I had never thought I would encounter again. She stood hesitantly at the threshold, a look of determination etched on her face, as if propelled by a force greater than herself. "Lucas, we need to talk." Her voice sliced through my confusion, pulling my attention back to Lucas standing frozen, a myriad of emotions cascading across his features. He began, glancing at me, torn between the past that lurched back into focus and the world that might still hold a future. Not here, Sarah insisted, her eyes darting between us, panic and urgency pulsating with every word. Please, we can't let this wait. It's about everything. As Lucas turned to the door, my heart raced with an overwhelming tide of uncertainty. A new conflict surged forward. What did his sister know that could change everything? Craving clarity, yet gripped by fear of the unknown, I had no choice but to follow. My decision lingered at the back of my mind, a monumental shift in the narrative now thrust upon us, one fraught with both danger and understanding. Stepping forward, I whispered more to myself than to them. What was supposed to be a simple conversation has turned into a whirlwind of secrets and revelations. The storm raged on, both outside and within, as we prepared to unravel the tangled web of our past, a path laced with shadows and the faint glimmer of hope fighting to break free. The rain battered the windows like a relentless drum, matching the wild thrum of my heart as I moved to the door. Each step felt heavy with dread and curiosity, the uncertainty of what Sarah might reveal casting a long shadow over my thoughts. The air hummed with electric tension, the kind you could almost taste, thick and suffocating, as if the universe was holding its breath in anticipation. "Lucas, wait," I called, my voice echoing softly against the walls of the library. I knew it was a low blow to stop him now, but the urgency etched across his sister's face beckoned for a reckoning of sorts. I had to understand. Caution and hope wrestled inside me as I tried to process how Sarah could possibly hold the answers we needed. "Let her go first," Emily said gently, her grip tighter around my wrist. She leaned closer, her voice low but fierce. "If you go outside now, we might lose you in whatever's about to unfold." Lucas paused, the door slightly ajar, betraying the stormy world beyond. He turned to me, a flicker of hesitance crossing his face. The heaviness of old wounds and buried truths hung in the space between us, heavy enough to drown in. "Fine. Well, listen," he replied reluctantly, stepping back into the muted warmth of the library, the door slowly closing behind him. Relief intertwined with trepidation. Part of me wanted to shield myself, while another part was desperate for him to hear whatever was looming in the air. Sarah stepped through the doorway, her auburn hair a fiery halo against the gloom. For a moment, she hesitated, jaw clenching tighter than I had ever seen it, her eyes darting between me and Lucas as if weighing the gravity of her reveal. "I don't have time to explain every detail, but things have changed much more than you think," she started, her voice crackling with a mix of urgency and fear. "There are people who won't let this go. They're watching us, Lucas. They want to make sure it all falls apart." She took a breath, her hands trembling slightly. "And it's not just about you. It's about everything we tried to escape from." Her words, a palpable silence fell over us. My heart raced, every instinct telling me to step back, to retreat into the safety of what I knew. "What do you mean? Who's watching?" My voice was edged with panic, the stakes suddenly feeling far too high. "Family," she whispered, each letter dragging along a sense of foreboding that coursed through the air like smoke. "The kind you can't outrun. They know about the past, and they will use it against us." Lucas' face paled, the weight of her words crashing down around him like waves in a storm. "What do they want? Why now?" His brow furrowed, sweat beading on his forehead. There was a churning anxiety in his voice that sent shivers down my spine. For a moment, it felt like the ground beneath us had shifted into an unsteady chasm. "They want to control the narrative," Sarah stated, her tone laced with a fervent urgency that sent alarm bells ringing in my ears. "They might want to hurt you, or worse." "Why would they hurt Lucas?" I shot back, the instinct to protect swelling in my chest. "What does any of this have to do with me?" "Because of what you mean to each other," Sarah replied, her eyes narrowing as if searching for clarity in a stormy haze. "The moment he stepped in that door, everything changed. They see you both." As she trailed off, and the unsaid words hung thick in the air, swelling with implication. A flood of emotions surged within me, battling with each other as Lucas stood ghostly pale beside me. "And what do we do about that?" he asked, the resolve I had seen before now tinged with dread. It was a real question, one that confronted the very fabric of our shared past. We couldn't outrun, no matter how fast we tried to run. find out what they want. Sarah managed to spit out, fear wrestling with determination in her voice. Stay close to each other. And most importantly, do not trust anyone outside this room. With her words, the looming shadows of distrust crept into the corners of my mind, encircling around us like wraiths. How could we navigate through a world tainted by darkness when we had already struggled to hold on to the light? As my thoughts spiraled, Emily, the ever-hopeful force, stepped forward. What if we told someone? Who can help? She sought answers, even with hesitation hanging over her words, a flicker of hope illuminating her face amidst the uncertainty. No one, Lucas interjected, his voice steady, even though uncertainty shimmered behind his eyes. They'll turn it against us. We have to keep this between us, whatever it takes. The decision loomed regarding whom we could trust in a sea of shadows. Yet a single thread of hope still shimmered faintly as Sarah's gaze softened. I'm here for you both, she said, emotion tightening her voice. It'll help, and we can figure this out together. Together, I echoed, clinging to the fragile bond that was forming amidst the tempest of our tumultuous past. As the storm raged on outside, echoing our turmoil, a rustling sound drew my attention. I turned abruptly to the large window. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Once again, someone was watching us from the edge of the trees, a figure cloaked in shadow, their intentions unreadable. My breath caught in my throat, and an ache of apprehension spiraled through me. I reached for Lucas, and he grasped my hand in solidarity, both of us propelled by a sense of dread looming heavily over our heads. Whatever was unraveling felt both daunting and dangerous, waves of secrets crashing against our resolve. Perhaps fairy tales were never meant to be easy. Perhaps they were filled with struggle, peril, and the constant fight for a love worth protecting. But as the figure outside faded into the shadows, I realized we were already trapped within One, threatening to shatter everything we fought for before the storm would finally let us breathe again. The rain still lashed against the window panes, a relentless reminder that even inside the safety of our library sanctuary, the world outside was dark and foreboding. The flickering candles cast shifting shadows on the walls, distorting our faces into gaunt silhouettes, reflections of the fear lurking in our hearts. The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily upon us, the gravity of Sarah's words echoing like a beating drum in my chest. Who was that? Emily whispered, glancing toward the window, her eyes wide with apprehension. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely audible over the symphony of rain. The thought of being watched sent shivers down my spine. It felt like a predatory gaze lingering just out of sight, a reminder that the darkness didn't merely exist in the outside world, but nestled tentatively within our very lives. They'll know we're aware, and they won't wait for us to slip up. Lucas breathed, his grip tightening around my hand. The warmth of his skin brought a bittersweet comfort, anchoring me in a moment where everything felt chaos-ridden. Lucas is right, Sarah said, her voice low and steady. We need to stay vigilant. We can't let fear dictate our next move. A fire ignited within me, pushing me to stand tall despite the heavy turmoil. Okay, let's figure this out, I urged, shifting my attention between Sarah and Lucas. We need a plan. We can't let them control us. As if we have any control to begin with, Emily muttered, her usual sparkle dimmed by worry. There's something we can do, Lucas said suddenly, a glimmer breaking through the storm clouds. We could go to our old Hideo Yuta place. They wouldn't think to look. Are you talking about the treehouse? Emily's inquiry hung in the air, the memories of simpler times rushing back, wanting to distract from the gravity of the present. Lucas nodded, a flicker of resolve igniting in his eyes. It's remote, and it has a hidden entrance. We could go there, regroup, and figure out our next steps. A burst of renewed courage surged through me. Then let's do it. We can't let fear hold us hostage. Moments later, we donned our jackets, preparing to brave the elements. As we stepped outside, the wind howled and whipped around us, but we held fast, huddling against each other for protection. The trees loomed ahead like silent guardians. Each step we took felt like a leap into the unknown, filled with both dread and an undeniable spark of hope. The treehouse was a relic of our childhood, a sanctuary far removed from the complexities of adult life. I could scarcely believe we would return here under such dire circumstances, but the nostalgia of laughter wrapping around us like a warm hug made the journey feel essential. Upon reaching the treehouse, a sense of safety washed over us as we climbed up the wooden ladder, the sounds of the storm fading into a mere background hum. The inside was cloaked in dust, but the memories stirred to life. The worn blankets piled in the corner, and the drawings we had scrawled on the walls transported us back to a time untouched by shadows. Once the door closed behind us, silence enveloped us like a heavy cloak. We could finally breathe at least for a moment. "Okay," Lucas began, his voice a mixture of urgency and determination. "What do we know? We have to figure out who they are and what they want. I wish I had more answers," Sarah admitted, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "But I know this. We can't trust anyone outside our circle. What if they already know we're here?" I asked, anxiety creeping back in, uninvited. "Then we'll have to move fast," Lucas replied, his determination unwavering. "Maybe we can craft a messaging alert, something to let others know about the danger. But who can we trust?" Emily kept her brow furrowed, every emotion etched clearly across her face. "Anyone but my family," Lucas replied bitterly, his past spilling into the present as forcefully as the rain outside. An uneasy tension thickened the air, and just as I opened my mouth to reassure Lucas, a sudden crack of sound outside shattered our moment of fragile security. We all froze, eyes darting to the tiny window. Something or someone was moving in the underbrush below. "Did you see that?" Emily's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "It could just be an animal," I tried to calm us, but even I didn't believe my own words. The sound grew louder, closer, and panic threaded through our tight-knit group. Our hearts raced in unison, the quiet camaraderie we had just established hanging in the balance. "Everyone, stay by the back of the treehouse," Lucas instructed, ever the leader, though fear gleamed in his eyes. We obeyed, creeping toward the farthest corner, hearts pounding as we strained to listen. The rustling grew louder until it stopped suddenly, leaving an eerie silence that filled the air. Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged cloaked and hooded, their features obscured. "What do you want?" Lucas shouted, voice steady despite the tremor in his heart. The figure lowered their hood with slow, deliberate movements, and gasps escaped our lips as recognition rippled through us like the passing of an electric charge. "Lucas, it's me," came a voice filled with regret and longing, a voice we thought we had left behind, buried deep in the recesses of our shared history. Time seemed to freeze, and with it, the fragile remnants of our hard-fought courage began to shatter. All we had fought to protect, every secret we had hoped to keep buried, stood poised on the precipice of reckoning. The treehouse felt smaller now, crowded by the weight of that voice, a haunting echo of the past that slithered its way back into our lives when we had least expected it. I could see Lucas' fists clench at his sides, the muscles in his jaw tightening as he processed the sudden reappearance of someone he had tried to erase from his memory. "Cecilia?" he uttered, disbelief coating his voice. She stepped into the dim light, and the flickering candles lit up the features I had only ever seen through Lucas's eyes in old photographs. Her once bright smile wore a waned sheen of sorrow, and the haunted look in her eyes spoke of untold stories woven through the threads of grief and yearning. "Why are you here?" he demanded, taking a step back, as if the very sight of her could shatter his careful resolve. I had to find you," Cecilia whispered, her voice fragile, trembling like a leaf caught in the wind. "I've been looking for all of you. It's urgent. You need to listen to me." "Urgent?" "You vanished without a word, and now you want to swoop back into our lives like nothing has happened?" Lucas's voice was trembling now too, a mixture of anger and vulnerability pouring out. It was the rawness of a wound that had festered, unhealed. "Please. You don't understand. It's not safe. You didn't just escape the past. It's hunting you," she said urgently, advancing a step, but Lucas retreated, a wall of memories separating them. "How would you know? You left us to deal with it all alone." His voice broke slightly, betraying the cracks in his bravado. "Because I was a part of it. I didn't leave by choice. They took me. They took me to control you." She inhaled sharply, stealing a moment to breathe, her desperation palpable, flooding the tiny space around us. As much as I wanted to feel anger toward her for her absence, a twist of empathy coiled within me. I felt the echo of loss in her words, reflecting our own struggles against the darkness returning like a familiar phantom. Cecilia, I found my voice, tentative yet laden with both fear and compassion. If what you're saying is true, then we need to know everything. We're in danger. I know, she confessed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I've been followed since I escaped. They know about you, about your friendships. They're watching. We're all aware of that. Emily spoke up, her brows knitted tightly in concentration. But you need to give us more than just vague warnings. If you want to help, tell us what you know. Cecilia nodded, her hands clenching into fists. She took a breath, steeling herself. There's a reason they're coming after you. I overheard them talking about a catalyst, something that could link all the groups together. Someone among you, she paused, each word hanging heavily in the air. Someone among us. Lucas repeated, disbelief flaring in his eyes. You're saying one of us is a target? I don't know who exactly, but someone they want to control, Cecilia continued. It has to do with a power that can shift the balance of everything. That's why they took that's why I'm here. They think they can use me to gain access to you. Why would you come back if it meant putting yourself at risk? I asked, crossing my arms, clenching my hands to keep the tremors at bay. I tried to be brave, but I can't run anymore. I had to face it, she whispered, the vulnerability in her words cracking through the walls I had instinctively put up. I came to warn you, to help you. I can't let them hurt you. A moment of quiet suspense enveloped us, broken only by the rain still battering against the roof, each droplet echoing the turmoil that flooded our hearts. I could see the uncertainty trapped in Lucas' gaze, the intricacies of past and present colliding viciously within him. Why should we trust you? He eventually asked, his voice strained, regulated but breaking. I don't expect you to, Cecilia replied softly, stepping back as if to create distance, but also to shield herself. But you need to know Theory closer than you think. I barely escaped this time. They will come for me again. The gravity of her words pressed down upon us, suffocating in its intensity. A rush of emotions clashed within our little circle: fear, regret, a flicker of hope dimmed by the shadows of doubt. Maybe we should contact others, Emily suggested, her voice shaky. Tell them what's going on, that we need help. No. Cecilia's tone became erratic, fear brimming in her eyes. They have eyes everywhere. If you reach out for help, it'll put you all in danger. At that moment, another crack outside resonated, sharper than before. All our hearts jolted, and I felt an icy grip of fear clutching at my throat. We exchanged anxious glances, realizing we had already crossed the threshold of safety. Quick, we need to hide, Lucas urged, urgency flooding his voice once more as he reached for Cecilia, instinctively pulling her toward the shadows of the treehouse. But before we could act, an ear-splitting shatter rang through the stillness as a branch snapped, giving way beneath the weight of an unseen intruder. A figure lunged forward from the underbrush, crashing into the clearing around our hideout. Run! Lucas shouted, his eyes ablaze with raw panic as we stumbled backward, hearts pounding in sync. In that harrowing moment, while the essence of our precarious lives surged toward chaos, I wondered whether our nostalgia would be enough to save us. Each breath began to feel heavier as a flicker of darkness advanced upon us from the opening, threads of our intertwined fates fluttering like loose pages caught in a storm, teetering on the edge of a revelation that threatened to change everything we believed. The chaos of the moment exploded around us, each heartbeat a reminder of the peril we had unwittingly invited into our sanctuary. Lucas braced himself, an instinctual protector flaring within him, but I could feel every ounce of fear rippling through our small group. We exchanged panicked glances as the silhouette edged closer, a shadow emerging from the darkness with an appetite for chaos and dread. Get back! Lucas yelled, voice unwavering despite the trepidation in his eyes. I pressed myself against the wall of the treehouse, heart racing like a trapped bird, and grasped for words of reassurance that wouldn't come. The reality of Cecilia standing here with us, now a source of urgency rather than comfort, twisted like a knife in my gut. But she too was frozen in fear, her face pale, reminiscent of the girl in Lucas' old photographs, innocent, hopeful now shattered by the weight of looming threats and painful truths. Please, we can't just stand here, Emily shouted, breaking through the fog of uncertainty. We need to do something. We can't let them take us. Where will we go? I whispered, the panic of decision clouding any rational thought. The branches outside rustled as the figure advanced, a phantom edging closer like a thief stealing our precious moments. It was a dilemma of trust. Part of me wanted to protect Lucas, shield him from the onslaught of ghosts, while another part screamed to run from the agony that hid in the shadows of rage barely quelled. Would he still want me beside him if the truth we feared was indeed lurking in the messages from the past? Follow me. Lucas took charge, eyes steely yet laced with an underlying tremble, urging us to abandon the treehouse that had been our refuge from reality. The back exit. Well, lose them in the woods. In that moment, instinct overrode fear. Our bodies moved as one, propelled by the urgency of the moment, pulse quickening as adrenaline surged. We stumbled through the narrow path of the treehouse, pushing past Cecilia, whose presence felt heavy and ghostly against the soaring backlight of the approaching figure, both a puzzle and a flickering flame of hope. As we burst through the small door at the back, launched into the wild underbrush of the forest beyond, the world shifted. Branches clawed at our skin, the undergrowth whispered ominous secrets beneath our feet, and the shadows stretched like tendrils eager to capture us again. Lucas led the way into the darkness, the chase morphing into a frenzy of tangled limbs and racing hearts, leaves crackling beneath our hurried breaths. I could barely keep up, my thoughts clouded by fear and a desperate need for clarity amidst the blur. Cecilia, Emily cried out, worry creeping into her voice as the sounds of the pursuit barely echoed through the trees behind us. Where are we going? To the river, she shouted back, words spilling like a current's rush. It's our best chance. If we can reach it, we can lose them. Our feet moved faster as the sounds of shouts ricocheted across the landscape. The gnawing doubt mingled with our silent determination, a desperate old bond tethered to memories we dared not explore. I could sense that for Lucas, every step was a reckoning. The deep-seated need to protect Cecilia clashed violently with the bitter confusion of her haunted absence. At last, we reached the bank of the river, the moonlight spilling across the water like shimmering diamonds scattered on velvet. Panting, we all came to a halt on the pebbled shore. The fast-moving water mirrored our racing thoughts, threatening to sweep us all away. Cecilia turned to us, her face kissed with fear yet strangely grounded. If we cross there, they may not see us, she exclaimed, scanning the horizon frantically. But we have to stick together. Lucas nodded, the tension in his shoulders taut, eyes betraying an unspoken struggle between anger, love, and fear as he glanced between Cecilia and Emily. We can make it. We have to. Outer chaos cast scars across our hearts. But the river promised refuge, an electric break from the despair chasing us down. I could feel the ripples of history between them, the loose threads of regret and longing. Beneath the fear, a spark flickered anew, a bond that perhaps could redefine our futures if only we could confront the tribulation awaiting us across that watered. In the flurry of movement, I reached for Lucas, and as our hands connected, warmth surged through my veins like wildfire, igniting the chill of uncertainty. But before we could make our decision, the harrowing voice from the shadows pursued us across the bank, startling the stillness of the night. Run all you want, but you will never escape, a new voice called, its smooth malice wrapping around us like fog, deep and entrancing that I turned, dread hallucinatory, and watched as another figure emerged, not far behind, their eyes glinting cruelly against the moonlight, the bearer of a revelation that shattered everything I thought I knew, dragging shadows from all corners of our existence not yet uncovered. Cecilia, the figure smirked, eyes narrowing like a predator closing in on its prey. You shouldn't have come back. You've just made it so much easier for us to find what we're looking for. I felt my breath hitch, panic constricting my throat, a panic that sang of truths unbearable yet demanded to be unraveled. The river's flow was relentless, our fates entwined beneath its surface. Yet here stood a choice: a leap into the unknown or surrender to the grasp of darkness closing in swiftly around us. And in that moment, I finally understood. The fairy tales I once cherished could not hold weight against the burden of our histories. Only love could emerge unscathed from this tempest. But at what cost? The night air chilled as the malevolent voice dragged us deeper into panic. My heart thudded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat echoing the urgency of the moment. Cecilia's face twisted in confusion, and I could see her trying to piece together fragments of a past she had hoped to forget. The figure approached, an unnatural confidence radiating from them, making the shadows feel even darker and harder to escape. That what's so special about you, huh? The figure taunted. You think you can just walk away from what you've done? Their voice sliced through the night, sharp as the wind that rattled the trees, hauntingly familiar, yet foreign enough to unearth deep-rooted anxieties. Stay back. Lucas' voice trembled, an edge of desperation weaving into his words. He drew closer to us, his stance protective yet vulnerable, as if he was trying to shield us not just from an immediate threat, but also from the suffocating weight of all that lingered in the air, the tangled histories and dark truths. Lucas, I murmured, my body tight with anxiety. What do? We can't let them take Cecilia. Cecilia inhaled sharply, her eyes darting back and forth between Lucas and the figure, as if a storm raged within her. You don't understand, she began, her voice breaking under the pressure of long-harbored secrets. If I'm here, they have a reason. I thought if I stayed away, they would forget about it. About us. Emily looked utterly bewildered, her hands shaking at her sides as she stepped instinctively closer to Lucas. What do you mean? What's going on? What are they talking about? The tension grew thick like fog, palpable and suffocating, and with every heartbeat, the dread twisted the air around us. I could feel that flicker of hope beginning to dim, overshadowed by the ever-looming truth that they were drawing nearer, closing the gap. The river gushed alongside us, a cacophony of freedom clashing against the crushing weight of our reality. Cecilia, Lucas said softly, his voice quivering with worry. You can tell us. Well, face it together. Would you wanna? She whispered, her gaze heavy with guilt. What if I'm the one who brought all of this back? I ran for so long, thinking I'd escape, but I brought you all here. And now her voice trembled with emotion, a swirl of resolve and regret. A moment shared in the quiet rush of the river cradled us, weighing on us the knowledge of a past too heavy to ignore. And yet, deep within the chaos, I felt a spark of creativity within me. We could just hold on to our unity. Perhaps we could rewrite the tales that threatened to entangle us. But then, the figure moved closer, a smile creeping onto their lips laced with venomous delight. Did you really think they'd protect you, Cecilia? You think they understand the kind of darkness we're facing? Their words slithered, igniting flickers of fear in the air. I felt Lucas stiffen beside me, his grip tightening on my arm, squeezing desperately, as if searching for strength in our connection. Together we stood as silent sentinels, rivals against an unknown dread, a cavalcade of memories igniting the air, demanding confrontation. Enough, I cried out, the churning turmoil spilling out of me. Whatever you think you know, it doesn't matter. We will find a way to break free of this. Such bravery, the figure drawled, amusement flickering in their gaze. But foolishness can lead you to darker places. I wouldn't be so confident if I were you. The threat hung in the air, heavy and unnerving, but the sheer force of defiance, a truth born from love, kindled a fragile hope within me. Well, find the pieces of this puzzle, I promised, glancing at Lucas, feeling an unspoken bond unite us even tighter. Then, without warning, a low, guttural sound reverberated through the quiet forest, disruptive and jarring. It punctured the momenta, howl of desperation, a sound so raw it cut through the tension like a hot knife through butter. Lucas and I exchanged wide-eyed glances. It felt primal, a cry that echoed not just through the trees, but also through the chambers of our hearts. Lucas! Cecilia shouted, tears shimmering in her eyes as the figure faltered for a moment in uncertainty. The haunting howl grew louder, more visceral, a sound that felt almost like an animal choreography to sorrow and despair. Get to the water! Lucas barked, galvanized by the urgency. We have to get across. But before we could react, the figure lunged, a blur of movement, the clattering of feet crashing against the stones of the riverbank. Time slowed as dread threatened to seize my body completely. Lucas! I screamed, watching as he lunged forward to pull Cecilia away. The world blurred around me as I took a step back, my mind racing. Then the howl crescendoed, and from the trees emerged a dark silhouette leaping into the fray, claws glistening in the moonlight, a savage protector, a loyal friend, or perhaps a harbinger of nightmares. The moment hung suspended in that chilling breath. Certainty nestled alongside uncertainty, and all the buried past I had tried to ignore swelled to the surface. As the shadows encroached, I realized our paths were intertwining in ways we never anticipated, every heartbeat echoing our fears. "Run!" I yelled, but as the figures clashed around us, I suddenly noticed an undeniable truth looming beneath the surface of the chaos, unfolding a truth that promised liberation but could threaten everything we had ever imagined. And with that, the darkness began to pull away from the edges of our lives, revealing an all-too harrowing revelation, leaving me chilled to the bone at what lay behind that breathless howl and the darkness yet to come crashing over us. In the midst of chaos, there was a moment of stillness and electrifying pause where time hung heavy and every heartbeat echoed like a warning. The figure approaching, cloaked in shadows and ire, held a presence that felt eerily familiar, yet terrifyingly distant. "If I had known you'd draw them out, I would have left you buried in the past," the figure snarled, venom dripping from their words like poison. Lucas's grip on my hand tightened to the point of pain, but I didn't shake free. A flicker of dread pierced my heart, the chaos around us merging with the memories that haunted every corner of my mind. "Who are you?" I forced out, my voice steady though my insides quaked. "I am someone who knows far too much," came the smooth, mocking reply. The figure drew closer, illuminating their features in glimmers of moonlight, sharp, calculating eyes that echoed the pain I had tried to distance myself from. "Stop!" Lucas shouted, moving instinctively to shield us, and that protective posture sent a rush of warmth and determination coursing through me. Whatever the truth was, we would face it together, even if it threatened to unravel everything we had fought for. "Face it, Lucas. This is all your fault." The accusation struck like a whip, not just breaking the air, but tearing at unseen scars. I braced myself, not in fear for what this figure would release, but in conviction of the bond we had shared was stronger than any past darkness. "Why are you even here?" Lucas replied, every bit the courageous protector, his voice low but steady. "I've come for what's mine," they snarled, a hint of desperation creeping in as they drew closer. "You think you can escape your lineage? That you won't be held accountable for the ties we share? That power demands a price." Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted from the Wutsa, powerful eruption that echoed the storm within us, and my heart leaped into my throat, pounding violently against the walls of my chest. "You want take her?" A voice called, deep and resonant, unmistakably Lucas' father, emerging from the shadows wielding the authority we had long feared. In that instant, a flash of recognition ignited within me, illuminating the truth we had buried under anger and betrayal. Lucas' heritage, his family's legacy, was intertwined with our present turmoil and future fate. A power so immense veiled behind generations, the kind that could rewrite destinies if embraced, or destroy them if denied. But we were not individuals guarding our tormented hearts anymore. We stood united against the tides of betrayal, roots digging deep into the earth beneath. With every breath, I loosened the hold of fear, ready to counter the whirlwind threatening to tear us apart. "They don't own us. We write our own stories now," I declared, voice unwavering and resolute. The looming presence faltered, caught between shadows of doubt and the weight of our fierce declarations. Lucas let go of my hand briefly, steeling himself as he took a step forward, unwavering in his stance. "You don't understand. For too long, I let your darkness speak for me. But no longer. I've embraced my path. I choose my family, my friends, and me love over a malevolent past." The figure shifted uneasily, an internal battle playing out across their face, but I could see something shifting, the mask of control beginning to crack. "You can't walk away, Lucas. They will come for you again. We are bound by blood and consequence. Well, break those chains," I proclaimed fiercely, stepping up beside him. "And if that means confronting every specter of the past, so be it. But we do it our way together." As we faced the remnants of our fears, certainty began to blossom amidst the embers of uncertainty. We could choose forgiveness, choose love, and above all choose to forgive ourselves for the burdens we carried, releasing the ghosts that tangled in our minds. With a swift movement, we lunged toward the river's edge, hands clasped, hearts fueled by determination. The water surged like a tempest, urging us to embrace the journey between the shadows and the light and unwavering bridge toward freedom. In that moment, I felt the essence of every memory intertwining those that had once haunted me, morphing dreams into reality, reflections of hope mingled with pain, that we would not just step into the water, but into our narrative, one unblemished by betrayal, searching for the truth that had long evaded us. With one last glance exchanged filled with promises of a future we could reclaim plunged into the depths of the unknown, surrendering to the rush, while clinging tightly to each other. As we felt the strong current sweep us under, an awakening surged through my veins, the journey deeper than the surface, touching each scar woven into the fabric of our lives. It was here, submerged yet liberated, that I understood. Every fairy tale comes with its trials, but love, the real lovey, is worth every leap into darkness. And in that moment, as we broke free from the weight of our past, I dared to believe that we were more than our histories. We were the architects of our redemption. The cherished tales ignited within us would ripple through the water like waves of hope cascading through eternity. As light pierced through the shadows, I inhaled deeply, tasting the sweetness of freedom and the bittersweet traces of everything we'd endured, and I whispered the words I knew would define our journey ahead. Together, we are the story still being written.